What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here with the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, and I am here today to bring you a completely new series involving the 2022 NFL Draft class. We are going to be talking all of the fantasy relevant players you need to know ahead of the NFL Draft and ahead of your Dynasty rookie drafts, redrafts, best ball drafts. Everything you need will be here. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is known for NFL best ball, but they definitely don't stop there. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete, including live draft contests and pick'ems, which you can make up to 20 extra entry on a lot of those contests. Use the promo code Awesemo to get a first match deposit bonus up to $100 and get started with Underdog Fantasy today. Now, diving into our first prospect, we are going to start at the wide receiver position with Arkansas receiver Traelon Burks, somewhat of a polarizing prospect in this class. But let's dig into Traelon Burks here. We'll start with size, athleticism testing. This is a receiver that stands 6'2", 225 pounds. He ran the 40-yard dash in 4.55 seconds. When you adjust that for his size, that ends up being 87th percentile speed. And it doesn't stop there. A lot of teams in the NFL are now relying heavily on GPS tracking data. We see that with the mile per hour rankings. NFL Next Gen Stats puts that out every single week. They also have it at the college level. And Traelon Burks is a player that's been routinely tracked above 20 miles per hour on some of his longer catches, which is very important here. It's not just the 40-yard dash, but this guy does have actual speed on the NFL field. 33-inch vertical jump leaves a little bit to be desired with the explosion metrics, but still overall passes all the athletic testing thresholds. This is a guy that just turned 22 years of age, so he's a very young prospect, spent the 3 seasons at Arkansas. But digging into his career a little bit, this guy came to Arkansas as a 4-star recruit. He was the number 16 recruit in the 2019 class. He ends up staying with Arkansas as an in-state kid. And then he goes on to put up some pretty spectacular overall performance metrics at the University of Arkansas. Digging into some of what he actually put on the field, we'll show you his top season overall, where he did record 66 receptions, over 1,100 yards, and 12 scores. But that's not just it. This is a guy that had 51 receptions for 820 yards back in 2020. He bursts onto the scene a little bit later as a freshman, 29 receptions, 475 yards there. But this is a guy that's produced immediately when given the chance. Digging into where he did produce on the field a little bit, in his final season, a 29.1% target share is absolutely elite. Where did his production come from? A lot of it did come from the slot. He played in the slot about 68% of the time, but when we dig into the offensive scheme here with Sam Pittman at head coach and Kendall Briles at offensive coordinator, this makes a lot of sense. Briles is an offensive coordinator that plays to this scheme that fits his playmakers, his best playmakers. And we actually saw 2 different offenses with Burks in 2020 and 2021. Under 2020, Traelon Burks, we had Felipe Franks at quarterback, the Florida transfer, and the pass rate was much higher for this team, 45%. Their plays per game was 71st in the country, and Traelon Burks definitely thrived in that offense. But in 2021, they moved to KJ Jefferson, and no slight to KJ Jefferson, but he's not the pocket passer that a lot of other receivers had in college football. They had a 37% pass rate under dual threat KJ Jefferson that was 122nd in the country and 72.3 plays per game, still top 50. Now, with KJ Jefferson, we know that the threat of the deep pass isn't there as much as maybe some other signal callers. With Traelon Burks, you had 61.4% of his targets coming at or within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So this is a guy they did really focus on getting the ball in space rather than have KJ Jefferson push the ball downfield a bunch of times with Burks. And getting him in the slot is another point I want to highlight. A lot of people will talk about Burks playing in the slot as a negative. The way the NFL is trending and the way some of these premier play callers are using their best receivers, you're seeing them move into the slot. In the NFL, receivers like Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, they were top 10 in the position with slot targets. So this isn't necessarily limiting Traelon Burks. More, it seems to me, Kendall Briles is being intelligent, getting his best playmaker in the slot away from some of the better defenders in the SEC, especially when you're matching up defenses like Georgia and LSU and Alabama on a week-to-week basis. And speaking of which, we do have Burks besting some of the best competition. When you dive into his game logs, you see Burks go 8 for 197 in 2 scores against Alabama. You see him 7 catches, 129 yards against Missouri. Against Auburn, he's over 100 yards. Ole Miss over 100 yards. A&M over 100 yards. This guy's done it all. And then diving into some of the advanced metrics, this is a guy that also played on special teams. So seeing his overall yards per route run leading this class is not surprising. This is a guy Arkansas prioritized getting the ball even as a freshman, and even on kick returns, showing his ability to make players miss. And again, 3.57 yards per route run is number 1 in this class. Traelon Burks doesn't have any major injuries to worry about either, which is not something we can say about a lot of prospects. As far as player comps, this is a bit of a risky range with Burks. Again, I'll bring you back to his size. 6'2", 225 with a 4.5, 540-yard dash. There's immense hits in this range, and there's some big misses. We're talking players like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside on the low range, but then we're talking about Allen Robinson's and Des Bryant's on the high end of the player comparison list. Now, Traelon Burks is likely going to be a first-round player, a late first-round player. Some team fits for him could include teams like the Green Bay Packers, which the aforementioned top 10 slot targeted player Davante Adams vacates a massive target share. But Green Bay is a team that's used players like Traelon Burks, particularly Davante Adams, where they moved him in and out of the slot. They use him on quick routes right around the line of scrimmage, get the ball in his hands, and let him make moves up the field. I think Green Bay is the floor for Traelon Burks, and don't be surprised if this is a player that comes off the board somewhere in the 20s in the first round of the draft. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Traelon Burks. Again, I am Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. We'll continue these player breakdowns throughout the draft cycle. Let me know if there's a player you want to see. Otherwise, thank you for watching and have a great day.